we saw what ngFor is doing, like it repeats something, and that repetition happens or reflects ultimately on DOM. Using this, I would like to introduce another lifecycle hook, the last lifecycle hook, which is ngDestroy. So before that, we'll have a component getting repeated. Instead of printing something on screen, like instead of having all this some text being displayed on screen, we can do a component as well, like component 2. Now if I save it, component 2 gets repeated for 5 times. Okay, component 2 property. Now if you see, we have 5 components, 5 list items. Every list item has component 2 in it. Now I'll have a button and when I click this button, I'll call a method on click. And I'll have delete. Name of the button is delete. So you see the delete button on screen. Or let me also repeat this for 5 times. Let's not do that. Instead have the button outside, and I'll have this method on click. When the click happens, I'll call the collection array and I'll say pop. So whenever a click happens, I'll pop every element, every item or every entry from this array, and I'll have on destroy lifecycle hook implemented, ng on destroy. In this I'll simply say console.log on destroy console log. That's it. So this lifecycle hook comes whenever a component gets removed from DOM, and ng-on init, we already discussed what ng-on init does. This lifecycle hooks comes into picture when the component is rendered on DOM. So I'll have on ng-on init, something like this, and save it. Now let's see what DOM has for us. So list item, 5 list items. Every list item has a component 2 displayed on it. Now if I click on delete, also we'll see the console. We have ng-on in it, and because I wrote this in the component 1, the right location is to have all this in component 2 actually. So by mistake I placed all this in here, component 2.typescript, and I'll remove all these things. We don't need this anymore, and I'll have on destroy method, and have all this written over here. This I don't need, and on destroy also I'll write over here. and I don't need this one. We'll cut it. I'll save this. I'll also save this, and let's see the DOM now. So now you have ng on in it displayed for 5 times because the child property got displayed, or the child component is displayed for 5 times on screen on DOM. So these are the 5 repetitions of component 2. Now when I click on delete, so you see what happens. You see there was an update, and also the console log, you see on destroy lifecycle hook getting generated. So whenever you delete a component from DOM, the ng on destroy lifecycle hook comes into execution. And also see how how DOM gets updated whenever a deletion of component happens. We are left with 3 components now. Now you see only 2 components, 1 component. Now when I click on this, none. Now you see console, you have 5 deletions or 5 times getting displayed of ng on destroy. So this lifecycle hook ng on destroy comes into execution when a component gets removed from DOM, and ng on init lifecycle hook comes into execution when a component is rendered on DOM. Now we'll see the last of all structural directives, which is ng switch. Ng switch is also similar to the switch statement that we have learned in other programming languages. So based on property value, its matching case, an HTML element is added or removed from DOM. So it's again on the HTML part. If no matches are found, then a default case is shown. So let's have a variable, something like case of type string, and I give as 1 initially, and I'll save this. And in here I'll have a div, and to this div I'll apply ng switch equal to the case. Now the case that I've given has 1 in it, so this will be 1, and in which I have a div with ng switch case equal to, if it is 1, then display this div 1. Likewise I'll have 2, and here I'll say 2, and the last one default. If these are not the 2, then you'll have none, and you say ng switch default, and all this you don't need. Ng switch default. Now if I save all this and come on to this part, you see 1. If I change the value to 2 and I save it, you see 2. If I give something that's not there like 3, save it, and you see none. So ng switch, which is from Angular under structural directive, is quite same as the switch case that we saw in other programming languages. But the thing again, I say, that's the beauty of Angular. You can do the programming on HTML elements directly, which is not the case with other programming languages or other front-end development technologies like JSP and Java, where you need to have combination of HTML and Java in the JSP file. So this is not encouraged in Angular. That's the beauty of it. Structural directives are, and its type, how structural directives perform on DOM. They modify and delete, they add elements to DOM, but attribute directives, they do not modify anything on DOM. Instead, what they do is they change the behavior or appearance, alter the appearance and behavior of an element. Like let us say in Google Drive, you see the storage bar which is currently close to 11 GB out of 15 GB. What if it comes very close to 14 or 14.5 GB is used? Then this blue line will change into red color. And this is what attribute directives are. Attribute directives change the behavior or appearance of an existing element. And this is possible in two ways. The types of attributes are ng-style and ng-class. ng-style refers to HTML element style and ng-class refers to CSS classes. So this all relates to the appearance styling of an existing element. So let's see what ng-style is. Before that, we'll perform the same thing in the traditional way. I have an array that holds items like 1, 2, 3 and 4, and we'll use UL and an li and a for loop, and for equal to let C of collection, and then we see interpolation, and if you save it, you see coming them on screen. Now I need to do some styling for these. I say style equal to color, I use blue, and I'll save it. You see the color is in blue. Likewise, I can say font and size as 30 pixel. Save it. Font to be this font size, and if I save it, now it's 30 pixel. So this is how we used to perform the styling on the elements. The same thing I'll copy and I'll paste it over here. Now instead of having the style attribute over here, I'll use ng-style now, and this is how we can use it. UL, you say ng-style, you say double quotes in which you open a flower bracket and close it. In this you can have color, the style that we want to apply, and I say my color, a variable. Likewise, I'll have font size and a variable like my size. These are the variables that I need to declare over here, or properties. I say my color of string equal to, I say blue, and my size colon of type string equal to say 20 pixel. I save this one, and I'll also save this one. So you see an error. The reason is template parse errors, missing expected, it says. Okay, so here it is a comma. Now if I save it, you see the same happening. The output that you see over here is the same you see now, but now it is using ng style and also using some properties, and these properties can be changed dynamically. So when you change the property my size dynamically, you see the output something like this. You can even change the color, and I make it to 40. Okay, so this is how you can achieve changes or the behavior changes using ng style. So similar to ng style, we have another type of attribute directive, which is ng class. Now continuing with the last example, I'll have ng style removed and say ng class. Now here I need to have a class name, and CSS class is what I need to provide over there. So I say component one dot component dot CSS, and this comes from code 365. Now I'll have a class over here, let's say custom class or custom color, and we'll have color of type blue or red. Let's have blue, and I save this file. Now I'll get the same class custom color written over here in single quotes, custom color. Save it, and you see blue. Likewise I'll have one more class, because this is what we have done. I'll comment this one, and I'll comment size as well, and now we'll have a size, custom size, in which I say font size, currently it is of 16 might be, and say 35 pixel, and I'll save this one. I'll also save this one, and now I'll have the custom class or custom size class written over here, and if I save it, you see the size getting changed. So this is how you can use ng class and write all the styles in a CSS class and apply them over here. Now this usage of classes, CSS classes, there are three ways again. Currently I am using string type, and the same I can use as an array and as an object. Let's apply string type and also array type or object type. This is an example of string, so I'll say string, and I'll comment this out, and I'll get another, and this one also I'll comment, and now we'll have array. So the same thing I can pass in like an array, and I'll close a quote over here, comma, and a quote over here. So this is one class and this is the other class. Now if I save it, you don't see any change, because the same thing I'm doing in a different way. And third one is, we'll comment this one also. Third one is object way. Okay, so the same thing I'll use as an object now. So I'll remove the array brackets and also single quotes. I don't need them, and instead Now I'll use the object brackets, curly brackets, and I'll make them as value key and value pairs, like this is key and the value should be true and true. Now save it. The same thing again, no changes, and if I say the size as false, size will be as usual, and if I make this as false, you don't see the color also getting applied anywhere. So this is how you can apply CSS classes to our HTML elements, and Angular provides its own approach, which is called as attribute directives. And attribute directs again two types, ng style and ng class.